wanna sing, but I can't speak. I'm paralyzed when you're next to me, running on dreams, 'cause I can't see how this could be reality. You're holding me close, but I don't know. Do I let you in? Do I let it show? All of my fears and all of these ghosts are the only things I've ever.
All right, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Morning Coffee with Rick Alexander. That intro music was provided by Brittany Taylor. She's at Barbell Brittany on Instagram, and I am at Rick Alexander _ and at Lionheart Radio. If you guys have been digging this show and listening to it for a while, I'm going to continue to produce it for free. I would ask that you would go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, help us to climb the charts, and really put this show on the map, because I think this information, I think a lot of people could benefit immensely from the information that we're putting out here. So I love you guys. If you could, give me a share, give me a comment, and just let people know that you like the show. Today I want to talk about something called necessity. And this isn't something that obviously, well, really none of these ideas are original to me. I think that they're more like deeply ingrained wisdom, things that are fundamentally true about our lives. But I want to talk about necessity. You know, the highest performers in our world, they have an elevated level of necessity, meaning they need to succeed. The way that they frame their situations in their mind does not allow them for failure. They have to succeed at all costs. And that mindset, while it can go really far in sport, I really believe it can take you really far in this life as well. Now, you have to think about it smartly, because you can't always control the outcome. And we're going to do a show on that a little later on. But to raise the level of necessity, I think that in a lot of situations, I think everybody will continue to get mediocre results as long as the ability to be mediocre is still acceptable. And we should really think seriously about what that means and the implication it has for our lives. Because, you know, for the longest time, I had a job on the side and I had my businesses. Well, while I had a job on the side, I never had to really turn pro in my businesses. Like, we did well sometimes we wouldn't. But when we wouldn't, it was okay, because I always had that paycheck. Only when I snatched that paycheck out from under myself did the necessity to perform and to do the things that I need to do, to send the emails, to do the administrative work, to do all of the back end stuff that I loathe. Only then did I get my shit together and start doing it, like to the level that it demanded. You know, somebody that talks about this is Brendon Burchard a lot, and I was reading his latest book. This guy is like a 6 times New York Times bestseller. He was talking about this idea that when he originally had quit his job as a corporate consultant, he wanted to be a writer and a coach, and he was pretty much reaching failure after failure, and he wasn't getting it together. He wasn't writing as much as he should, and he had all these bills that were going unpaid, and he was living at his girlfriend's house. And then one day, late at night, he had his bills all strewn out over his room. And I think this story really sticks with me, because I think it's powerful. He had his bills all over his bed, and his girlfriend had come in, and she didn't want to wake him, and so she slipped into bed. And he said in that moment, all he could see was her under the weight of all of his bills. And he realized what a burden he had become, and what he had felt like. And in that moment, he realized that he had no other option than to succeed, to get it together, to start writing the words, to start coaching the people, to do all of the things that we know that we need to do, but we aren't doing. Sometimes what we have to do is we have to raise our necessity to do that thing. In your own life, a question to ask yourself might be, where are you getting marginal or lower than average results, or maybe even average results, because you are allowing those results to be acceptable? Maybe in the gym. You know, sometimes one of the things that happens is we get in long-term relationships and we get comfortable. And so we don't necessarily take care of ourselves as good as we should, because we've allowed mediocrity to become acceptable. You have to raise the necessity for your success if you ever actually want to get there. Now, I don't think you always have to go Cortez style and burn the ships like I did, so that there is no retreat, there is no going backwards. But I'll tell you, it's a hell of a motivator. And I'll also tell you that you do have to figure out some way to raise the necessity level of what you are doing, so that the only option that you have is success. Because, you know, we live in a world with too many other options. And that's the thing. We have this informational overload, but we have ways to pacify ourselves like you wouldn't believe. You can just go look at porn. You can just go play video games. You can just go cruise the web or turn on the TV. Or, you know, it used to be that all we would do is pacify ourselves with the TV and like the, you know, endless channels through cable. But now you have that in your pocket at any second. If you are allowing yourself to not do the things that you need to do, well, then mediocrity is where you're going to live the rest of your life. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's something that you really need to consider because it is a necessity for success. You know, one of the approaches that I take to motivation is actually to lay out all of the things that are going to be in your life if you don't do all of the things that you know that you need to do. So some motivators will say, and we've done an episode on this before, but some motivators will say, well, hey, why don't you think about the end in mind? When it gets really tough, think about the end. I found that not to be strong enough. For me, no, I want to play out every single scenario so that if I don't do exactly what I know that I need to do, where will I end up? Because when I see that person, I know that that person's not my ideal self. I know that that's not acceptable for who I am and where I want to be. So the thing to think about might be, where are you accepting that mediocrity? Where have you not raised the necessity for yourself to succeed in your own life? Until you do that, it's going to be really hard for you to get the kind of results that you're actually after. You know, there's all these YouTube motivational clips, and I remember watching an old one, and I'm sure most of you guys have probably seen this, but this guy who really wanted to be successful, he had this mentor, and his mentor told him to meet him at the beach the next morning. Mentor walked out in the water, and the kid followed him. And then his mentor held his head under the water, and the kid started panicking, and then he started panicking more. And right when it was his last breath, and it seemed like he was about to go under, his mentor let him up. And he said, you'll be successful when you want to succeed as much as you want to breathe. And that's what he's talking about there. Like it's this rah-rah motivational thing, but it's also like a very real thing. We have to raise our necessity for success or we're going to continue to get mediocre results. Hopefully this one resonates with you. Hopefully you can shine a spotlight in your own lives and see where have you been accepting mediocrity and where you might be able to change that. You got to figure out a powerful motivator and a powerful why to power through that mediocrity. But the life that waits for you on the other side, absolutely worth it. Love you guys. I'll talk to you later on Morning Coffee.